following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm your host, Christine Lalonde, and this is the podcast where we uncover the truth about online dating. Now let's begin.
Hey everyone, I'm Christine.
I am Sean.
Hey, there's Sean. He's our guest co-host today. Thanks for being here again, Sean.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Me too. Gabby is not feeling well again, so we're going to have to get that girl to a doctor.
Yeah, need a full-time doctor at the house.
I know. It's good to see you again.
Thanks.
Yeah, today we're actually going to talk about online scammers again, and we recently had Sean on as a guest talking about his online scamming situation.
Never seems to end.
I know. We gotta inform the people and help them be, aware of what's happening. So Sean, I typically at the top of the hour, Gabby and I talk about our dating situation or something that's happened, and you get to hear my story today. I'm gonna try to make it quick because it was a doozy. This was honestly the worst date of my entire life.
Your entire life. You told me some doozies already, so this will be juicy. I'm excited.
This is juicy. And when you hear the story, you're going to go, oh, I wasn't expecting that kind of juicy.
Oh.
So I connected with somebody on Tinder, and he lives north of here, about 3 or 4 hours north of San Francisco. And he was saying he's moving back to my area here in Southern California, and that he was going to be here for a day and a half, and that he wanted to get drinks with me while he was here because he was staying in a hotel literally 4 minutes from where I live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we have a lot in common. He's also a chef, and he was, pretty cool. He was from England, whatever. So it sounds nice. He's cute.
Nice.
Yeah. So he gets down here, and we finally decide on where we're going, which is this little bar, restaurant across the street from the hotel where he's staying. And I get there and he's not there. So I just get a place at the bar, and he doesn't show. And I texted him and said, what's going on? And he said, oh, do you have green hair? And I said, no, it's blue. And he says, oh, are you wearing this? And I was like, dude, are you here or not? Because I don't see you. Where are you? And I feel like a fool because I'm looking around and I'm like, where is he? And I was like, I can't. This is my biggest fear. I can't stand to look around and have someone watch me look for them. It's weird for me. So I said, look, I'm not into playing games. I'm leaving. I'm an adult, and I want an adult man he says I'm shy. No, he's not. Anyway.
Okay.
I said, I'm leaving. I get up and I start to walk away. He comes running up. He says, I'm sorry. I was just making sure you were who you were saying you are. And I was like, we'd already had a conversation on the phone, whatever. So fast forward, we sit down. I have water because I don't really drink on a date. And though I did have one little glass of champagne, and he orders beer after beer, and he orders food like buffalo wings. And something was off. He was really loud, yelling about the couple that were a couple seats down from us that were making out. And he's yelling really loud, oh, look at the ugly couple making out.
Oh my gosh.
And the guy next to him, the guy next to him, he says, hey, my date here wants your fries. And I was like, no, I don't. And the guy's like, what's going on? I said, ignore him. He's obnoxious. Do not pay attention to him. Then I start smelling this waft of death. And I'm thinking, is he really silent but deadly farting? And he was.
No.
And I'm like, did something die in your body tonight? And he's like, what are you talking about? That has to be that person or that person or that person. I was like, no. I said, are you drunk? He says, no. I said, are you high? He says, no. I said, then what's wrong with you? He says, I'm on drugs.
Well, it's the same thing as being high.
Yeah. I said, what drugs are you on? And he says, I'm on, I had to look it up, mescaline.
Okay.
He's doing psychedelic drugs.
Sweet. Yeah,
sweet. So I'm like, hey, this has been real and it's not been real fun. I've got to go. And he's like, no. Let's just stay a few more minutes. I'm really enjoying my time with you. And I was like, wow, that was loud. A waft of a smell keeps coming and keeps coming. And I said, hey, maybe you should go to the bathroom before you leave. And he's like, no, I don't have to go to the bathroom. I said, yeah, you do. He goes, okay, I'll be right back. I got to go to the bathroom. So he gets up and he starts walking to the bathroom. And I'm like, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to wait till he comes back and then I'm going to leave. He starts to walk to the bathroom and I think, wait a minute. And I turn and I watch him dart out the door. And I can see him through the windows and he's aimlessly walking around the parking lot like he's lost. And then he walks up to the sidewalk and I'm standing there watching him. And the bartender comes over and goes, is something wrong with that dude? And I said, yeah, he's on drugs.
Everything's wrong with that dude.
He's like, oh my God. So I'm just sitting there watching him and he is lost. He can't find his hotel. So then he turns after about 3 or 4 minutes and he sees his hotel, which is right across the street. And he runs like a little 5-year-old kid across the street. And I was like, what the actual fuck? So I'm like, okay. So I call the bartender over. I pay the bill. I also forgot to tell you that when he was eating his chicken wings, that he was shoving them in his mouth like he was an animal. And the blue cheese is running down his face and he's pouring the blue cheese dressing in his mouth. And
why did you even stick around after that point?
It was so entertaining. I'm like, well, this is like, perfect story for my podcast.
That's where you sneak your phone up a little and just start going,
I should have recorded him.
And then send it to me so I can get juicy with you. This is great.
Yeah. So I texted him on my way home and said, a real man would have said goodbye and paid the bill. And, and he said, I'm sorry I had to go, but I literally shit my pants. And I was,
that's
hell?
On par with my worst date ever. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
The next day he texts me and says, I profusely apologize. I don't remember it all, but I know that I shit my pants and I know that I left you with the bill. And can I have your Venmo? So he then asked me for a second date and I politely declined. So
I'm surprised you even talked to him again.
So America, I'm still single and on the,
it was a dumpster fire. You have to keep watching. It's one of those types of dates.
It was. I was like, by the way, the next day I did text him and say, you do remember that I have a podcast about dating, right? And he said, yes. I said, you do know I'm going to talk about this date on my podcast, correct? And he said, yes.
Thank you
He said, please just don't use my full name.
Thank you for the material.
Thank you for the material. I don't know what's worse, being romance scammed or being, sitting next to a guy who shits his pants at the bar. So
at our age anymore, you just think you would find halfway decent people, but there's still people that are like, am I in my 20s? Am I in the Twilight Zone? What is happening here? This is insane.
I thought someday in my future when I'm with, the man I want to spend the rest of my life with, maybe later in life, we might shit our pants together, but
That
I
would be
didn't
great.
expect it now.
Run across the street, shitting our pants all night long, just screaming at the tree lights. This is amazing.
Crazy talk. Anyway, well,
you got me hungry for blue cheese though. All of a sudden, wings and blue cheese. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think I'll pass. It was pretty intense. It was
You'll
pretty
have
intense.
PTSD from blue cheese.
I do. I was like, it was chunky and it was falling. I was like, not
Love
happening anymore.
This is great.
Pardon me, I'm still getting over my cold. I should have coughed on him and made him sick.
Right.
Anyway, I want to welcome our guests in. I'm going to talk about who they are, and then we're going to find out, how they started doing what they are doing. Kathy Waters is an expert that Facebook, newspaper, and TV shows, congressional staff, and multiple international agencies all call for information about online scamming. She has logged in 3,800 volunteer hours helping those whose identity has been stolen, as well as the men and women who have fallen victim to scammers. She's amazing. Kathy has traveled numerous times to Washington, D.C. for meetings with congressional and Senate staff, the Federal Trade Commission, and the Pentagon. Plus, she is one of the only people to meet with Facebook Inc. safety and security team regarding her data collection and reports and findings. By the way, she's a badass.
I could have used her like a year ago when I got scammed. This would have been great. Kathy, where were you then?
I know, I could have used her so many times. So she partnered up with Bryan Denny, and we're going to hear how they partnered up and how she found him. Bryan Denny is a founding member of Advocating Against Romance Scammers and chairman. He served as an officer in the U.S. Army for 26 years. Woo, woo!
All right, sir.
Go, sir. Retiring as a rank of colonel. In 2016, Bryan's photos were stolen and used to build thousands of fake profiles. From mainstream social media sites to obscure dating services, he's become the face of a military romance scam. Now, he's working with Kathy to fight against, to expose scammers and educating potential victims and changing legislation. Oh my God, I can't read. Changing legislation. Sean, take it away.
Legislation.
Thank you.
She meant the legislation.
Right. To keep organized crime off the internet. Let's bring in Kathy and Bryan.
Hey.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi.
Bryan, you look too good to be a former colonel. What's going on?
Just good, clean living, my friend, and lots of brown liquor.
Fair enough.
Well, now we see why you have been your face has been stolen over and over, to entice all the ladies.
Well, I think it has a little bit to do about looks, but quite honestly, my mom says that, but I don't think that's really the driving point behind why my pictures were used successfully by a lot of folks to take advantage of people. But we can talk about that a little bit later if you like. But I have some ideas on why they picked the.
Oh yeah,
I would love
the pictures that were taken. Yeah.
Probably have similar stories, Bryan.
Yeah.
The military aspect really kicks in.
Yeah. Based on what you were saying, Sean, and congratulations on your service as well.
Cool.
Always good to see another vet out there doing good work. So good on you,
sir.
Thank you both for your service. We appreciate you. Well, Kathy, hi.
Hi.
Our resident badass. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you? Thank you for having us on here.
Nice. Well, I want to talk about first, Kathy, how this started for you.
Well, my mother's friend came over for Thanksgiving dinner one time, and she was talking with this new gentleman online, and she showed me his picture, and so it was all too good to be true. He was going to retire, move here. They were going to spend the rest of their lives together. He bought her an engagement ring, but he wasn't going to bring it until he came. And so anyways, when she left that night, I looked online, and I went on her site because his account was on her platform.
Okay.
And it said his name was Ross Newton, but on the uniform, it said Denny. So I looked up, I couldn't tell if it said Lenny or Denny. It was very hard So I looked up Army Man Denny, and I found Bryan on LinkedIn, on his LinkedIn account. And so I messaged him, let him know that I think something like this was happening, as some kind of scam. And then Bryan had messaged me a few days later confirming it and saying how he had known about this for the past probably 6 months or so.
Wow.
You know, I get LinkedIn messages every week from women saying this exact same thing.
Yeah.
So I completely understand. This is a really relatable story for me.
Yeah, and a lot of times the victims, they don't think that the person knows, that the real person knows, and that they need to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes a high majority do already know, but the platforms don't do anything about it, or they are very minimal.
No.
Yeah, and you're right, Sean. You're going to see this happen over and over and over again. It's the same story. I mean, it's so repetitious, which is why it's so frustrating to get the word out there to let people know, hey, this is what's happened, and don't fall for it. Because, I mean, the stories are all very similar. And it started for me in 2016. I'd been out of the Army for about just a couple of months, and it was June. And I posted some pictures online of a family vacation. There were a couple of pictures of me in uniform. There were a couple of pictures of me with my son, a couple of pictures with our horses down in North Carolina. And that was all like the first 12 pictures that were stolen, you know, in a month in June of 2016. And from those 12 pictures, you could tell a really good story about a captain, major, colonel, sergeant major, staff sergeant who went to pick a university, whose wife recently passed away, and I'm leading a squad, team, battalion, regiment. Pick a place. I mean, because the scammers don't get the verbiage right, and it's and now my son's at boarding school, and he's with the horses, and he was injured now. And I need money to help him get medical attention. And I can't do it because I'm in, again, pick a third world country. And it really pulls at some strings. So I really think it has more to do with the story that you can craft and make it seem believable, even though a guy like Sean would look at this and go, this is garbage. This is bullshit. None of this makes sense. You know, I'm the sergeant major leading a team. I've got a doctorate from so and so. It's like, okay, I went to West Point. I'm like, yeah, no, none of these things add up. But for the person who wants to believe and they understand their demographic, this is something people want to believe and need to believe. And I reported and fought it for a few months on my own. And then as Kathy said, she reached out to me in November, and she really is the dynamo behind the team. And I give her a lot of props, and she earns them.
So, Sean, by the way, there's a woman, Carolyn, she's one of our listeners. She said she's so glad she found our podcast.
Yeah,
she was recently scammed with someone using your picture.
She recently contacted me. This is the most recent of them on both Facebook Messenger and LinkedIn for this exact same thing that Bryan's talking about. They just changed their names. Sometimes they keep the same names. I've seen it all. Every story that Bryan just said exactly to the T of what I've heard on my end as well. And it's like, what do you say to these wonderful women? I'm sure they're just absolutely wonderful women, but all I can say is I'm really sorry. It wasn't me. I wish you the best. And that's the best you can do. But if now that I have Kathy here, I can kind of send them her way with her website. So I'm really excited to be able to do that. And I'll be doing that from this point on. So that's really great, Kathy.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So Kathy, tell us, once you reached Bryan, what was your goal and how did you proceed to move forward?
Well, you hear of the romance scams, but I never knew how big they were. Bryan and I didn't know if it was one person using his photos and maybe building a couple accounts, or if it was a ton of people, and it ended up being a ton of people. So
villagers.
These scammers, they sell the pictures to each other and they build all these fake accounts. So the more information we started getting on this, the more we realized that nothing really has been done. There's a lot of groups out there that do help people because there were so many already scammed, but laws hadn't been changed. Since for 20 years, laws haven't been changed on our internet safety. No. So yeah, when Bryan and I kind of got the word that this happened, I said, Bryan, maybe we should try and reach out to the congressional departments. We had gathered some data and information. We built an initial report for Facebook to inform them of what was going on their site. Somebody got word of this. They gave us some information on somebody at Facebook, and so they agreed to meet with us. At the same time, we were able to set up some meetings in DC. And O'Brien said, he was like, either they're going to accept us or they're going to say no, and we got meetings, and we were very surprised that, people wanted to hear us. But a lot more has come out since then on the romance scams. Everybody's that gets scammed is very embarrassed to come forward. And so we're trying to stop that stigma of that and let them know there's a lot of help and support out there. And the best thing to do is to educate. And the important part is to educate our lawmakers. So we knew we had to start there.
And Kathy's really very modest. I had been offered some assistance by a number of different folks that had been scammed or involved with it in some way. That I was getting a half a dozen messages from people I didn't know on Messenger every day, trying to say, "Hey, this is going on," and you do run out of things to say, Sean. I mean, it's like I'm sorry this happened, but you spend so much time talking through this, and it's really tough. You're breaking up with somebody who is kind of just coming to grips with why this has happened. And we originally kind of set our sights pretty high, like, let's meet with Facebook. And I thought, okay, yeah, and you can send out letters to congressional elected officials and this kind of thing. And I had to pull her reins in a little bit. I'm like, who's next? She's like, well, I've sent out about 100 letters to the Pentagon. And I'm like, I go to the Pentagon to work, so let's hold off on that just yet. The chief doesn't need this in his inbox. We had multiple fake profiles up on Facebook alone when we first when we went into the Pentagon. But yeah, Kathy really attacked the problem and kind of crapped it. Hey, this is the way ahead, and engaged us who ought to try to get and see what happens. And that was usually successful for us.
The problem too is a lot of these scammers are overseas, so there's only so much that can be done based off the laws of where they live. So it's really difficult to hone it all in. But I agree, it's amazing work, and there's so many people here affected. And I always made jokes. It's like, can I get a commission off these guys? I mean, geez, if they're going to use my stuff, I'll be rich right now.
Out, but
right.
It's you kind of have to joke about it a little bit, because if you don't, you get weighed down by just the tragedy of it all and what people have lost. But it's tough, particularly when, most of this originates out of places like Lagos, Nigeria. I mean, I think they're famous for this, and Ghana. And, some of the guys that do this get help in the States through money mules and the like. But it originates largely overseas. And it's really, I don't have the ability to do that, to reach across the ocean. I wish I could. I would love to do that, but it's tough.
Yeah, there's been several times that I've been talking to somebody that I've connected with on, like, say, a dating site, and we'll be progressing, and we'll be, talking, and even phone conversations, and there'll be something that clicks in my head and go, they're not real, and they keep bugging me. And I said, look, I just wanted to see where I could go with this. So it wasn't that I knew that it wasn't that I was hung up on it. Is I wanted to see how far I could push it.
Sure.
So I would say, hey, I know you're not real. I know you're somebody somewhere else. I'm guessing Nigeria. I'm guessing this. And I think you're a horrible human being. And I attack them. I say, who do you think you are, hurting unexpected, vulnerable women who just want to find love, and you are playing on their emotions, their heartstrings, and their purse strings? How dare you? And they'll get all like, oh, I'm sorry. This is who I am. And I've gotten their pictures of them and their names. It's crazy how much they'll start to admit. It's very bizarre, but there's not a lot that I found that you could do about it. So I'm really glad that we have found you guys.
And I would say you received a picture of who you think they are. I mean, I'm convinced you don't. I mean, if we weren't sitting here looking at you right now, and I'm not entirely sure. And this is the thing: people go, "What can you do to not lose money to scammers?" It's pretty easy. Don't send money to people you've only met online. I mean, if you think you know some, I mean, it's so easy. But in reality, I used to say, don't send money to people you don't know. But after weeks, months, of conversation with someone, you know them, or at least you think you know them.
Think you do.
But you certainly know who they portray themselves to be. But the reality is, if you haven't looked somebody in the eye and shaken hands with them, you don't know.
So, the technology is getting crazy, Kathy. I mean, for you in this situation, I have a TikTok account of almost 200,000 followers, and I go live and I talk to people, and I'm have a lot of women who obviously would like to be with me in the comments. But what I found is because of my platform, they're able to use this video of my lives and create where they can literally FaceTime with women as me. So women are thinking they're talking to me, and there's no reason they would think otherwise. And so it's just getting really sophisticated out there. It's a battle.
They do. That's what they do. They record the videos. They'll take out the volume from it, and they'll say it's a technical difficulty. They'll act like they're answering questions. Well, they don't, but the person will ask questions, but there'll be no volume there. So they'll just say there's technical difficulties, and why wouldn't they believe them? They're seeing them face to face, So I've gotten so many, but I FaceTime them. No, you really didn't. But how do you prove that to them? That's very hard to prove that when all of this manipulation is going on at the same time. So
it's for that reason there that we hardly ever do. I don't think we've done a podcast where we were on video before, but I'm very reluctant. You have to kind of weigh who's going to get hurt through this video, because these images are going to be turned around and used to do something. And so, and then there's a leveling out of how many people will hear the message and go, okay, yeah, that guy's familiar. That he talked about this, and now I see his picture, or who will hear the message and know romance scamming is a real thing, and I need to talk to the women, the people in my life that are susceptible to this. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, to speak.
Wow. So what are you guys doing now? What's on your agenda? What's your next step? What are you working on to help people who have not only had their identity stolen, but those who have also had their money stolen?
Well, since the beginning of all this, we've become a nonprofit organization. And so when you become a nonprofit, you can't necessarily go after certain bills. You have to educate the congressional department. So we plan on still continuing our meetings. We have a website that provides information on the red flags for scams, where you can go and report, where you can go and get additional help.
We're having some sound. Hold on, Kathy. For some reason, we have some really bad sound going on here. Go ahead, Kathy. It's cleared up.
Okay. And so, and where people can go for maybe some more support, clinical help. I can help guide them. I can listen to them. I will tell them where they can find or get their justice. I am not a licensed therapist, so I will always recommend somebody go to see somebody who is a licensed therapist, because like I said, the manipulation is incredible. And a lot of people go through years of trying to get better from all of this. And then some people have even taken their lives because of this. They feel like they can't get out of this rut and this hole that they've dug themselves into, like, borrowing money from family members and friends, and how do they face anybody again? And, and it's awful. It's terrible. And I never want anybody to feel like they're alone, ever. This happens to millions and millions of people. It's just, like I said earlier, the embarrassment keeps people from coming forward. So hopefully our website can help provide a lot of this kind of help and education to people out there who have experienced a romance scam.
So are you guys are trying to pass some kind of bill, or you're working on some kind of bill? Is that right?
So we had a meeting with Representative Kinzinger, And come to find out, he too he's currently in the military and has been a romance scam victim. Well, he's an identity theft victim. So his photos have been stolen. People have waited for him at the airport when he got off the plane, saying that they were supposed to meet. Yeah, we heard some stories. And so they were looking to do something anyways before we even got in there. And so they did create a couple of bills. Unfortunately, they've been sitting in the committees for nearly a year now. And he is not going to stay in his seat. So that's why we want to push for more congressional meetings to see if we can get more people who would want to pick up these bills. And one of them is for the responsibility of the platforms. And when you report an account and it comes back as within community standards, just like Bryan, I've reported his account. He's reported his own fake accounts that are out there, and they still say they're within community standards. Do you get that?
Same here. I have 52 false accounts I've reported within the last 3 months, and they're still there. And I still have women telling me that these are the ones that are contacting them. There's just nothing I can do.
Yeah, and you yourself is reporting them. That's what's it's unreal. So one of these bills is supposed to have them. So when you get this response back, you have the option to contact the FTC and let them know, hey, I'm not okay with this answer. This needs to be looked into more. So it's a great thing. It would be great if the FTC can hold them responsible for a lot of this. So that's one of them. And the other one has to do with those who scam within the United States and holding them responsible. So we're more geared towards the platforms and keeping them responsible for what's on their platforms. They're accessories to the crimes. Right. Bryan and I have met with Facebook multiple times, and they are very aware of what's going on here with the, not only the fake accounts on their sites, but these organized crime groups that are on Facebook and selling, Sean and Bryan's personal information or victims' information or scam scripts. That's all on Facebook. That was the latest report that we did. That's on our site too. If anybody wants to check that out, it was about Facebook and about YouTube.
Wow. I find that most of the dating sites are about. It depends on the site, but I'd say about 80 to 90. Very, very high percentage. 80 to 90% are fake profiles lying to you about who they are, not the real photos. And it's like weeding through the garbage. It's so bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's all over these days.
I think you've gotta, if you're in that world and you're on those kind of sites, you've just got to expect that. It's par for the course, unfortunately. And if people are sending you friend requests and you're like, okay, I don't know this person and we have no friends in common, even, you've got to expect that you're being fished for one reason or another. I mean, and that's a really easy message to deliver, but a harder message to kind of follow through with, because here's somebody who's scamming me, and or somebody sent me some pictures, and I want to kind of see who that is, and you're rolling the dice. You really are.
If it's too good to be true, it probably is, but at the same time, that's what love is supposed to be, too good to be true, right? Real true love is supposed to be too good to be true feeling. So it's this weird balance that you have to figure out.
No, you're right. I mean, you want to believe it. I know scammers will take advantage of ladies. They'll be talking to them and they'll be pretending to be someone else, and they'll get some compromising photos. And now those photos are being used to go after guys, to get the guys to click on it and like. It's a vicious kind of cycle. I just, when I get, it's out there. You just got to know that it's out there, and you're walking in a minefield. But you want to believe, hey, this could be something real. But you have to know that this is being, these things are being done by organized criminals. These guys know what they're doing.
Yep.
They're skilled at this. This is a job. This is a livelihood. This is how people make their money to eat every day. These are people who are ruthless and will take you for every cent you have.
Yes.
They're good at it because they've done it a long time. They know how to play the game, and nothing's off limits. So just know that.
there's a few things I want to touch on. First of all, our producer in our back channel asked, are men also being scammed? And yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those that I hear about are, they get bots, and they are really beautiful women photos. Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
oftentimes supermodels. They'll use a lot of supermodels, celebrities. They also use military women as well in there. But oh yeah, this is not just a crime against the females, the men, and of course the men reporting is a lot lower than women reporting, and that has to do with a lot of what am I trying to say? Like their stance on things, like that would never happen to a man. That would never, you know what I mean? And they feel they don't want to look vulnerable in their life, and well, nobody does, but more so for a man too.
And Kathy just hit on something. I mean, I know my demographic, and the reality is that they target ladies who are in a later stage in life. They've typically lost someone like their husband, who they spent most of their adult life with, and now they find themselves alone and are searching for somebody. And so because they're looking, it makes it easy to kind of gloss over a lot of the things. Well, this doesn't make sense, but I want this to be true. This doesn't, really add up. And I've never seen this person, but I want this to be true. I mean, they really are taking advantage of women in a lot of cases. Not saying it doesn't happen to men, but certainly women that are in a vulnerable point of their life when they are on are on a fixed income. Maybe they've got money, maybe they don't. That doesn't weigh into it as far as the scammers are concerned. As long as they can get whatever it is you've got, that's the meal ticket. But it really is unfortunate. It preys upon a segment of our society that doesn't really have often the money to lose, and they've already really are in a vulnerable state, which is why they believe this kind of stuff to start with. It's really tragic to see who they prey on.
I've heard numerous times over and over that when women say, no, I can't afford it, or I don't know you, or whatever, that these people attack them. They verbally assault them, and they mind manipulate them, and they really go after the most vulnerable part. And it is so, so sad.
Yeah, and because by then they already know that the victim's family, they've got children, they know how to go after them. They'll threaten them, they'll threaten their lives, especially like Bryan said with the promiscuous photos. They have been known to send the photos to family members, people they work with, and that's so scary for the victim. And so many have come to me and said, I don't know what to do. Well, it's so hard to tell them you need to report this, block it, and there's not much else you can do. I mean, there's nothing you can do to stop them from sending these photos out. But if you send one more dime, it's just going to continue, and it's just going to continue. So, we try and support the best we can with the victims. But yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Just this week, a scammer a lady had reached out to my wife to say, hey, I'm trying to confirm that you're married to this guy. And it was, yes, I am. And she said, well, we've been talking. Are you sure? And she's like, yes, you've been talking to a scammer. And she was, and she knew all this was coming, and this was going to be part of her life at some point. And she was really trying to convince the lady, hey, you are being scammed. This is not, this is a kind of a fantasy land. This is what's happening. And the scammer sent my wife a message, basically threatening her, listed our kids, and said by name. I mean, and this is, am I overly concerned about it? No, this scammer is overseas. Do they have reaches into the United States? Absolutely. But this is a desperate ploy to get, my wife to stop turning people off. And the lady that she talked to said, hey, I've talked to his wife, and none of this is real. You're bullshit. I'm not listening to you anymore. And cut off a cash cow for this guy. And his resort was, I'm going to threaten my wife say, I know where your kids are, all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, they will stop at nothing. These are, these are organized criminals. I can't stress it enough. I mean, some people might think, well, this is just some harmless, he'd take a couple of $100 from a lady, no big deal. It's not a couple of $100. This is millions of dollars. It's emotional abuse. It's psychological abuse. And it's devastating and often unrecoverable for the people that get involved with it.
Yes.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah, I mentioned in the episode that we had Sean on a few weeks ago when he was talking about his romance scamming. There was an episode that I saw of Dr. Phil where they were talking to a woman, and her sister and her daughter was trying to convince her that she was being scammed. And this woman had never met this person, never even talked to him on the phone. And she had sent them over $800,000 and was thinking about selling her home to send him the money. And nobody could believe it. And no matter how much they tried to convince her that he was not real, she would not believe it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Over your own family. That's how manipulative they get. You don't even believe your own family. Yeah. And then you end up closing up and you don't let them in, and the families kind of just wipe their hands of it. And I try and support the families too, saying, once they find out and they realize that this is a scam, they're going to hit probably one of the lowest parts of their life, and they're going to need you. You've got to, you've got to provide them the support, and they don't need to hear "I told you so" or anything like that. Unfortunately, a lot of the friends and family that are on the outside aren't educated in how these scams work. So a lot of times they just think that people are just giving money away, and that's not the case at all. So getting the word out there to them and providing them the red flags. As soon as somebody starts talking to somebody and they'll remember a red flag, that'll stop them a little bit. If they haven't heard this before, then they might continue on with the conversation. But if we can put those red flags out there of, what to look for, are they moving a conversation? Are they saying that they're deployed in another country? They have a child here in the States. I mean, there's just a bunch of different, you can't just take one. There's multiple red flags that you need to look at. Yeah. But if they can just notice those few, and hopefully it could stop a lot of the scams from happening.
Yep. I do want to talk really briefly about some of the, I don't know what the word I'm looking for at the moment. Some of the people, what they're saying, not only the military, if anybody mentions to me at all or has in their profile that they're military of any kind, unfortunately, I just say no, period.
When I was dating, that was the hardest part for me, by the way. It's like there's so many women. It's like when I was actually dating, they were just saying, "Oh, sorry, you're probably a scammer." I'm like, "I'm not." So,
and there may be some that aren't, and I feel for them, but I'm not going to risk it. And you may not want to risk it. Another one is a businessman who is dealing with mining or construction, building bridges in other countries.
Engineering.
Engineering.
Oil rig workers.
Oil, you just read my mind. Another one said he was a businessman going on a trip and that he had his wallet stolen. And that now he's stuck in his hotel. They won't let him out until he pays the bill, and he can't. And it's a weekend, and he can't get to the now he can't get to the bank because he has no identification. If someone makes a date with you and then cancels on the day and then says they're going out of town, forget it. Block it. Get rid of it.
Yes.
There's so many. I was trying to hit on a few of them to kind of trigger people's minds going, wait, that happened to me. So
those are all great indicators. And it goes back to what Kathy said. Our number one, goal in our organization is to inform and inform people that this is real, and then educate them in terms of, hey, this is what you're looking for, listening for. It's the same signs. I mean, the playbook is good, but it's not that deep. I mean, there's only so many things you can do online to convince somebody you're the real deal. And so it is not that deep. And so, educating people. And then if it does happen to you, or you figure it out before it happens to you, what do you do with that information? How do you report it? And a lot of times, really it's just to provide an outlet for somebody to talk to about, hey, this happened to me. I want to share that, because it's kind of, it is therapeutic for people to be able to have a conversation and not be embarrassed about it. That, this has not just happened to you. It's happened to thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people like you. And so very educated people along the way. There's not, there's no correlation between that kind of thing. I mean, everybody's vulnerable at some point in their life, and that's what these guys are looking for.
Yeah, I think that not only Facebook, but the dating sites should have a stronger
verification process.
Thank you. You read my mind. Verification process. They should protect these people. If you're going to be the kind of person or group or business that's going to put something online that's supposed to help people find friends, sex, love, whatever, you should have some kind of responsibility for exposing people to this kind of fraud.
Well, absolutely.
You're absolutely right. I mean, just, and I am not on a lot of dating sites. I'm not on any dating sites. My picture's on a lot of dating sites, but I'm not on dating sites. I go back to, we talked about it, when we were targeting, like, who do we approach on this? Or like, well, let's start with Facebook. I mean, I'm a board member on a U.S. Army association. I was in 2nd Cavalry, and I'm a chairman of the board for 2nd Cavalry Association. We have 7 of our World War II vets are up on our Facebook group. You know how hard it is to get 7 World War II vets on any social media group whatsoever? I mean, just to have 7 guys that fought through World War II up on social media so they could see what the regiment's doing in Europe and this kind of thing is pretty keen. So I'm like, I am. There's a lot of things I just like about this whole platform, but in terms of communicating with people, it enables me to do what I want to do. So we want to make it, better. And we've kind of approached it from, we just want you, Facebook, to live up to your community standards, which, says, hey, you can't have duplicate sites. So Sean should be able to go in every time and go, hey, this is a duplicate site of me. Look at the pics. And get 100% or at least 90% success. Maybe they blurred it. Maybe they did something to it. I think the algorithm for them are smarter than that. But I can tell you, if Sean has his profile pic and in the background there's the Tennessee state flag or something, they'll never get rid of that. They won't compare. They'll go apples and oranges. It will never take that down, because I've got one that's been up for a couple of years now like that. So just to help them live up to their standards that they advertise, their community standards. That's all that I think. That's a reasonable request. It's their standard, but to get them to do that takes resources, and resources. I learned in the Army, whatever the commander says the resources are, watch where they spend the money. That's where the resources really are. And Sean's laughing because he knows this to be true. So in the time that we've talked about dating sites or romance scams, they've started a dating site. They started Facebook Marketplace. They've had a number of other initiatives, but I can't see that anything that they've done has made one bit of difference in stopping fake profiles from being established. Not at all.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time, and I hate that the time goes so fast. There's a couple things I want to say. First of all, if you are a victim of any kind of online fraud or crime where you've sent money, or you have people that have had their pictures used, please reach out to Bryan and Kathy. They can direct you towards the right avenue to go to help you or help your loved ones. If you are interested in finding people, there are multiple other ways of finding people other than dating sites and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. There are real places to meet real people, and we talk about that on this show. So if you've not heard some of our past shows or future shows, come back and watch us, because we will help you with that. Sean, thank you for being my co-host today. Bryan and Kathy, you guys are amazing. I really would love to maybe have you back and talk about some other things with this. I think it's really important. And I'm sorry we're out of time, but you guys are extraordinary.
Thank you guys.
Keep up the good work. We really admire you and can't thank you enough. So
Thank you.
We'll be back again, same time, same place. And please reach out to me on my Instagram or my email, and we will direct you towards them as well. And until then, keep it real.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50 Shades of _bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.